Yofi. So, hi everybody.
Hello.
Hi, great to be here finally with Rebecca. So excited to be doing this. Big fan. And now our worlds are colliding. The the turf world, the trans exclusionary radical feminist world, and Rebecca's world, where she talks a lot more about politics. And recently, you've been extremely animated over something that I'm also extremely animated about. So why don't you introduce yourself to my viewers, now that your viewers, I think, know who I am, and then we can start to really get into the subject matter.
To be honest, I'm just an ordinary Israeli that one day woke up and found out that the world is crazy and decided to talk about it.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I also for me, it was also like right now, I feel like the Israelis that the media chooses to show are always from like one type, kind of.
Yeah.
Like
One
it's
one
very
one
filtered,
perspective. Yeah.
which
Extremely filtered.
extremely filtered, and then they think those are the majority when they're not.
Well, they're not. They're very much not. And I think actually that really ties into the sort of thing which has made us kind of so frustrated. And I think that is sort of the Western misconceptions and perceptions about what is the real history here. The real history from the last 75 years, right? Just start from 48. And up until now, and also these kind of as well Western fantasies about what is the solution to this problem. And the Western perception is that the solution to this problem is the cult of the two-state solution, the fantasy of the two-state solution, the delusion of the two-state solution. And I'm really perfectly poised to speak about that because my half of my family are many generation Israelis, but I grew up until I was a teenager in the West, and I had that perception. My Israeli family would come and visit me, and I would think to them myself, they're so unenlightened. Yeah, I would say, they have such a harsh opinion about the conflict, and me, I know much more. I'm much more enlightened. I have better ideas. I have better ways to solve things. And it was this arrogance, this extreme arrogance, and it was only after living in Israel for 20 years. We're coming up on close to that 20 years, that I really started to understand what the problem is and what the solution is. And Alana is saying something very interesting, which is a two-state solution is possible only after 70 years of total peace. Now, I'm sorry to tell you, but you're completely and utterly wrong. In the Middle East, it's very simple, right? Peace is only something which is given to the powerful, to the dangerous, to the crazy, to the person that nobody dares to mess with. Okay, that is what real peace in the Middle East actually looks like. And it will only ever be a temporary peace because you have to stay violent and dangerous. And this peace is always going to be temporary. And we can only have it so long as we are feared by our neighbors. Okay, this is what I feel. And I don't know what you feel about that, Rebecca.
Okay, so I want to say several things because I think it's interesting because you have a completely different perspective than mine. I didn't even have the luxury to be like infested with, I don't know, Western ideas since I've never been Western. And I've never, like, my family story is like I came as like, if I don't starve, I'm lucky kind of situation. It's like, it's not something that I did talk about it a little bit, but my dad grew up in the most dangerous city in the former USSR, which
Mm-hmm.
has a lot of implications. And my mother, the way they had to work, like in Russia, they had to work for food, and my dad had to work to survive. And then when the USSR collapsed, they both, and there was a civil war in Georgia, and they
Mm-hmm.
escaped to Russia. When my mom was pregnant, they were like cramping in a plane to escape to Russia with me, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I grew up in a family that was always very on a high alert from other
Mm-hmm.
people. So, like my parents had experienced the worst, and that made me more. And also, like they taught me from a very, very young age how to read between the lines, how to be like critical thinking, because it was funny like when they came they said when we left the USSR we thought that we wouldn't have to use those skill sets like that skill set that we had in the USSR. And I said like it was clear to us very like pretty fast that it doesn't matter where you are, those skills are super important.
Mm-hmm.
Like always doubt what you hear, always think again, always
Mm-hmm.
like understand like the coding language that the media uses. So you can say that for better or worse, like I've always had that high alert kind of thinking.
Mm-hmm.
Something happened here, I'm sorry. And therefore, I've never had that luxury of even
Mm-hmm.
developing Western thinking. So this is why I think your story is super interesting to me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you'd also, I mean, my half of my family is also from kind of the same area as you, from the, former, Soviet Union. But I was not brought up with, I mean, I was really, I was, until I was a teenager, I was really infested, I think, with all of these Western concepts. And, Western kind of, I kind of want to go back a little bit to the sort of the beginning, okay. And you mentioned the USSR, and I think it's really important for us really to talk about the influence that the USSR and particularly the KGB, okay, in the entire predicament, right, that we find ourselves in. So let's kind of go back, I think, to this idea of the two states, right? So, I think everybody by now knows a little bit about Arafat and, of course, Abu Mazen, Mahmoud Abbas, whoever you want to call him. These were two KGB agents, right? And at the same time, in the kind of 1960s, when the USSR, when the KGB was starting these Marxist-Leninist insurgencies all throughout Latin America and also in the Middle East. This is where, Arafat was picked and groomed to be the leader of a terrorist organization, right? Again, it's in the name, the Palestine Liberation Organization. Liberation always means a Marxist-Leninist movement, right? So this entire project was born in Moscow. And so we have to also I mean, this is really, I have even in my hand this book, which was written by it was by Arafat's KGB handler. I really recommend anybody who wants to read it should read it. So this concept of the kind of the two state, right? And I think it's important for us even to talk about the concept of states, right? There's no such thing as a nation state in the Middle East, the way that we understand a nation state in the West, okay? In the Middle East, the tribes are über alles, right? Your tribal leader, your clan, this is your nation, right? And countries that are not built upon the the tribal in the Middle East, countries that are not built on the tribal premise fail. That is why Iraq looks the way it does and Syria looks the way it does. And juxtaposing that, the Emirates are very successful. Why? Because you have one clan, one family who are ruling the people. So this idea of we're going to have a movement based around the idea of the nation state is ludicrous. I mean, it's if you think about it, I mean, if you really think about what that is in the Middle East, it's actually a completely outrageous claim, because this is a entirely foreign concept. This is an entirely foreign, imported Western concept, right? And I think that we actually have to be thinking about the future for us, and I know you disagree with me here, as the eight-state solution. And I know you're very resistant to that idea, but it's anyway. Go on. I've been on my soapbox.
No, I'm like a local tribal kind of self-governing.
Mm-hmm.
I think, yeah, I don't think it will work because those clans they live off others and we're their neighbors, so we're gonna get anyway.
Yeah, well, but I think that if we look at, let's say, for example, the Emirates are a really great example, because the Emirates, you have one family in Dubai, you have one family in Abu Dhabi, one clan, right? Because the clan really is the thing which has the most legitimacy in the Middle East. And let's say, if we're going to take Yudav Shamwan, and I also think as well that a lot of people don't necessarily even understand what happened in Oslo. I had also this feeling when I was listening to Harris's video, that he really didn't know anything that happened in Oslo, what Area A means, what Area B means, what Area C means, who actually has authority over these different areas, and what Oslo, in my opinion, was born in sin, completely born in sin. I mean, it was okay. You had a guy who was a leader of a bogus KGB PSYOP liberation organization, the PLO, right? And you have, obviously, after the Soviet Union fell, they didn't have a backer anymore, right? They didn't have a backer anymore, so they had to come and do some form of negotiation, right? Because they couldn't continue in 1993, they couldn't continue on the way that they were going, right? And so Oslo, in my opinion, was completely and utterly born in sin. But what it essentially did is it did create two states, legally. That is what it created, right? In Area A, you have full PA administrative authority. They're the ones that are responsible for the trash, for issuing documents, for collecting taxes, right? And so there is no Israeli administrative authority in Area A. And in places like, in Ramallah, in places like Hebron, in places like this. And I think that people don't necessarily even know what happened in Oslo. What do you think? Do you think people even actually care? They don't care?
To me, the most shocking part when it comes to this thing is that it was an Soviet Union invention that the Americans completely cooperated with. They've never
Entirely.
cooperated with the KGB on anything anywhere. No matter like how ridiculously evil the people they were cooperating with against the Soviet Union war, right? Whether it was like what is it, Pol Pot? What's his for something?
Yeah.
when they thought, okay, so Cambodia could fight with Vietnam, so they ignored they didn't care about what he was doing just because it was a power that could have resisted the Vietnamese.
Yeah.
Like that was a Pol Pot. Yeah, that was like a good enough reason for them to cooperate, like because they wanted to oppose the USSR influence in Vietnam. And then it's like, why was it the two-state KGB invention of the Palestinian people and the Palestinian Authority, when they brought people from Egypt and criminals from all over the Arab world and have decided to completely fabricate their backstory so that they would somehow become Palestinian, even though they had nothing to do with Palestine. They were just the biggest criminals in the entire Arab world. Why did the Americans cooperate with that? This for me is insane.
Yeah. Well, listen, it's very obvious as well from the way that Arafat was speaking that this was phase one, okay? That coming to Oslo and signing this was phase one of this entire experiment, right? So, Arafat was a terrorist who was living in Tunisia, arch terrorist, and the American has had this genius idea to bring him back from exile in Tunisia and for him to manage this quasi country, right? It's crazy idea. So he arrived to sign the Oslo Agreement in his military uniform. Okay, so this was simply a stage one. Okay, and even when Arafat was speaking, was opening his mouth and speaking, everybody knew he was Al-Masri, like 100%. This accent was
The
obviously like
Arabic is different. The Arabic is
Egyptian.
different.
It's totally
Like it doesn't sound the
Egyptian.
same. It's not the same words.
But what I was really kind of trying to say here is that so whenever Arafat was going around and he was people were saying to him, how dare you make peace with the Jews, how dare you do this, blah blah blah. And he actually just talked about what's it called? Ken, exactly. He kept talking about this. So what is
But
he
it was
saying?
too, like
It was too
it
late.
was even that, like the Palestinians did not have patience for that.
Hmm.
It's like they were so
Yeah.
afraid of normalization with Israel and that the next generation will forget to fight against Israel, that even
Hmm.
that was too much. And then, of course,
Well, but I still think like, okay, so what do you have? What is the difference between Hamas and the PA? Well, Hamas are going to kill us with Iranian weapons, and the PA are going to kill us with American weapons, right?
let's be honest, the Hamas are ditching the Iranians right now in favor of the Turkish.
The Turkish,
But
yeah,
they're the biggest
very,
traitors ever. Never
oh,
trust the
of course.
Palestinians. But
Never, never trust. Well, yeah, of course, but
I
but
mean,
it, but it, and I think I just feel so completely and utterly frustrated that I even still hear people even talking about this bogus idea. We have to move on. We have to move on to a better thing for all of us, and stop fantasizing about this nonsense of a nation state, of this rallying around these bogus concepts entirely foreign to the Middle East entirely. And we have to say to ourselves as well, okay, that the this really is just the PA really are just a gang of thugs. There's okay, and when we're talking about the clan, and this is, I really support the 8-state solution, the clan idea, is because people don't marry outside of their clan. So
yeah,
this idea, people stay in their clan, right? You have the
nobody ever
Barghoutis,
marries anyone from Azarka.
exactly. So you have the Barghoutis in Ramallah, you have the Tamimis in Khalil, right? You have your specific clans, and these clans, these tribal leaders, they do have a lot of the PA has no authority, right? With these clans, they have no authority. They don't respect them. They don't like them. When they have a problem, they still go to these tribal leaders, these clan leaders, right? And I wonder really if that is the future that we should be aspiring to and thinking about, and wondering how in God's name are we even going to get there? What do you think?
To be honest, that's like, to me, this is, if we take away the technology that doesn't belong here, it wasn't invented here, it's from the outside. This is a mentality the same mentality that was in the Bible, like exactly the same, right? So you have the Edomites and the Moabs and the Amaleks. So that was, and the tribes of Israel, right? This is exactly the same kind of structure. And to me, why the reason I go back to the Bible is like the Bible, we saw what happened eventually. You know, like what happened to Amalek eventually, right? What happened to the Edomites eventually. I think like we already like have that historical example of what should happen. To be honest,
What do
that's
you mean? We're just
what
going to have a huge war? Have a huge war?
no
What do you
like
think?
education, like the same thing.
I think even about that, right? About because
But this is what you have to do if you want to. It would, like, the reason that we left them, like why the humanity progressed is because of that. This is why Hinduism spread. This is why Buddhism spread, right? Because people were like, oh, those are interesting morals and ideas, and it begins to spread. The same with Christianity, and this is how like the moral foundation of a civilization. That same with I don't know, like philosophies, whether it's from Rome or from Greece. There is to so it's there is like natural structures, and what makes us different than monkeys is how big the social structures that we can build are. And the reason we managed to move from family structure to a clan and then a bigger clan is because we had those abstract ideas that united us, which grew and grew and grew. And there are limitations for it, right? Like, I don't know, like how, like there is even, you know what, if you take a country, right? There is still a family structure inside a national structure. And there are boundaries, right? There are boundaries. You cannot go to your neighbors and completely change the way they educate their children, even if you have the same moral values, basic moral values. The education still be different. Like the family structure still be different. Things are gonna still be different. So it's a very interesting balance between differences that are healthy, and because the other side of it, right? What we're seeing, this total imperialist mindset also collapses, right? There's also something that doesn't work. It's the tribal is. I believe in nationalism.
I believe
because
in the
I think
nation state. Yeah.
because it's like it's in the middle between the two. It's not tribal, but it's tribal, but big, but you know.
But I just wonder how on earth that a nation state could ever exist in the Middle East if you have, I remember just after the Serbian Bosnian War in the UN, they were talking about, bringing back the ideas of ethno-states because, at least then you don't have these problems that you have in the Middle East with warring clans. And, I'm sure already you're aware of this because you're really tuned in. But Abu Mazen, Mahmoud Abbas, whatever you want to call him, or we could call him by his KGB name, right? What was his KGB name again? Hang on, I had it. Was it Sig? Whatever. Anyway, so he Arif. Oh, Krotov was his KGB name. Anyway, so he's gonna die, right? He's gonna die very soon. He's what, 87, and the poor guy only has
the amount of years he managed to live with cancer is impressive.
And not only that, but how on earth does he have $100 million in the bank? How on earth does Abu Mazen have $100 million in the bank? And Bank Leumi, of all places. I mean, that really shows you how much we hate ourselves as people, that we allow Abu Mazen to put his money in our bank, and dirty that he's an arch terrorist responsible for, he's a KGB agent, but above and beyond that, it's this is the level of hatred I think that we truly have for ourselves, that we would allow something as repugnant as that. But anyway, so he's hanging on for dear life, but when he goes, that power vacuum, there are 5 current militias that are vying for power in the area that we know, as the West Bank, and that is going to fall very, very, very quickly, extremely quickly, and it's very scary. We have the Rajoub, we have the Majid Faraj, right? We have all of these groups that are forming militias to have a civil war immediately after Abu Mazen dies. And I think that the analysts that I listen to, we could be approaching a very unique situation, right? We could first of all be approaching a American president that is more favorable to us. But in addition to that, Abu Mazen could die, this power vacuum could be created, and that to me really would be something interesting. It would give us a chance, perhaps, to think a little bit differently, right? And allow ourselves to be weaned off the cult of the 2SS.
I think like all those families needs to be cracked down, to be honest. I don't think it's I don't think it's a legitimate structure in any way, shape, or form. Those are just cults. They're called families, but they're cults.
But if you think even like in a place like Egypt, right? Egypt, when you're in the city and you're walking around as a woman, so much sexual harassment, like it's off the charts. But in the rural areas where the tribe is uber alles, right? When the tribe is like dominant, the older men crack down on the younger men and keep them in check. There is something I think to be said, because what else has legitimacy? What else could possibly have legitimacy in the Middle East? The idea of people rallying around a nation, besides the Palestinian identified Arabs, who else even cares about a flag? It's these are very foreign concepts, if you know what I mean. The only people I ever see in the Middle East waving flags are Palestinians and Kurds.
Yeah, in the minimized Middle East, maybe.
Yeah, in the minimized Middle East, yeah.
Not excluding Iran and Turkey.
Yeah, well, obviously, right, yeah. Not excluding Iran.
The non-Arab nations.
I loved your video on Turkey. That fascinated me beyond belief.
It's funny.
Why?
Yeah.
Why?
I've been just talking to my friend from Turkey, and I was
Mhm.
asking what's up with that, and he's like,
Mhm.
I love it. Like, oh yeah, Duan is absolutely crazy, and I'm like, okay, so what's gonna be with that? I was like, oh, don't worry, we're gonna fight back. There are enough people in Turkey that want democracy, and
Mhm.
I'm like, why? I want to see that, man, because I feel like you guys are falling asleep. You're just an optimist, but I'm not so optimistic about that.
Well, it's interesting because Turkey is definitely, as you said, it's sending some very powerful signals, very powerful that we should not ignore.
No.
But the problem is we've got so many signals to listen to right now. We have the signals coming from Turkey. We have our internal signals. We have our signals coming from our neighbors in the south, the Egyptians. We have the Houthis. We're trying to listen to everything that the Iranians are doing. I mean, we're a small group of people. This is a lot even for us.
I mean, we don't have to deal with everything. It's not just our problem, it's everybody's
Hmm.
problem.
Yeah.
Um,
Do you think at all the military spending that the Europeans have been doing in the past couple of years, they're boosting things up, and Finland. I mean, Finland, I suppose, is scared of Russia, but Finland has just spent several billion buying David Sling. You have the Germans that bought, I think, the Iron Dome or Arrow.
the Arrow 3 system.
You don't buy an Arrow 3
I
system
think so, yeah.
as a NATO member if you're not afraid of something.
I mean, they all should be afraid.
It's
Like there is a
signaling
lot
they're
to
scared.
be afraid of.
Who do you think is the biggest threat actor?
Just general destabilization, to be honest. Everything is destabilizing right now. It's like
Mhm.
the world order that was decided after World War II is falling apart. That's the reality. Like, can I say like who's gonna strike Europe first? Depends who goes hungry first.
Mhm. Or
Um,
thirsty. We're in
or
the Middle
thirsty.
East. Yeah, I
Exactly.
mean that's another thing as well that I think people don't really get in the Middle East as why are there so many wars? Water, right? Water, right? People in the Middle East have wars over water. Your tribe has to be dominant so that your tribe can continue to dominate the source of water. Um, and it's hard for I think people. I did not realize that. I didn't realize that until a few years ago that even that people were still warring over things like water, or in our case, making peace over water, right, with Jordan. But water is a huge, huge, huge factor here in the Middle East. I just wonder. I don't really necessarily know where the next kind of threat is going to come from. What do you think? North, south, east, west? Where are we going to go?
Um, Here's the catch, right? When it comes to here,
Hmm.
as much as everybody hates us,
Hmm.
there is this dynamic that says there are 10 things we're more afraid of than Israelis.
Hmm.
Or like those who we hate out loud versus those who are actually a threat.
Hmm.
So even though it is very obvious, like there, like the Hamas, whatever, like there is this some groups that went completely like suicidal. A lot of Egypt, Jordan, like a lot of people also understand that the destabilization or the threats from other Arabs is so much scarier than anything,
Hmm.
or like
Hmm.
if there's something. So there is also this dynamic, right? So the Arabs are afraid from the Turks and the Iranians,
Sure.
and it's a three thing. It's a threesome thing, like
Hmm.
the Arabs, Turks, and the Iranians.
Hmm.
It's a triangle, and they are all scared of each other.
Hmm.
So it's an interesting, like, we're caught in between, which in a way makes this, like, yes, this area is super destabilized and they want to hurt us, but at the same time, because of that triangle and that Israel being in the middle, there is also this weird interest not
Opportunity.
to, but also this weird interest not to actually take it too far.
Mm-hmm.
The fear is, of course, what happens when people lose their minds. They're like go off rails, where
Mm-hmm.
they become suicidal and they don't care anymore.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's hard to tell, those things are, because it's those are, there are also like unexpected events, like the things like you cannot expect that will happen, and then something would destabilize first,
Mm-hmm.
and
Yeah,
change.
completely. And
Mm.
change this whole and change this whole kind of dynamic that we have, and maybe that's also an opportunity that we could twist to our benefit, right?
Like, I
And
do see the Arabs cooperating with the Israelis, with the Jews, like why, like
come on,
Saudi Arabia, I mean.
they love us. They absolutely love us.
Or
It's ridiculous.
they love us so much more than they, like, than, but they're so much more afraid than of Turkey and Iran.
Hmm. Yeah,
So
but it's good because I think as well that, yeah, you can see they're very, very afraid. And but I don't think we should make a Faustian bargain here. And I
no,
hope
because
that,
the craziness is such a big factor to always
Mhm,
keep in mind, that people go crazy.
mhm,
Like, logic is very, like, it's a mistake to think with logic.
mhm.
I actually have a question for you, right? Because
Go
which
for it.
we talked a bit before. So
Hmm.
you before you came to Israel, right? When
Hmm.
you were studying about the Middle East.
No, no, no. I studied the Middle East here. I
Oh,
came to
here.
Israel when I was a teenager.
All right.
Mhm.
So what was your thinking when you weren't here versus after?
Okay, so I really was very young, and didn't really know much about the world. But whenever my Israeli family would come and visit, I really thought that they were, it's hard for me to say. Like, I thought like they were being too rough in their assessment of the world. And it's like, why don't you guys just have peace and you just give them half of Jerusalem and kumbaya and everything will all be great? Like, childish fantasies, ludicrous ideas. And I'd been poisoned, of course, from the Western mindset, Western thinking. Um, and when I say like Western thinking, I'm I am pro everything that's Western, pro enlightenment, um, all of that. But there is this kind of uh, idealistic fantasy that people feel very comfortable to live in when they don't exist in a place where there are, okay, who woke me up about the Middle East? My neighbors, right? That's it. It was my experiences time after time after time that I had with my neighbors, whether that's witnessing a 13-year-old stabbing a woman on the light rail, and then I saw that teenager being shot. I mean, this is stuff that changes you. And it changes you in a way that you don't have any other choice but to start to think rationally. Okay, how on earth am I supposed to just kumbaya my way out of that type of a situation, right? Seeing this brutality. And like I say, I live in a city that has 50% Arabs. Okay, so I do. They are the ones who have woken me up to the reality and the predicament of my situation, right? Um, and even when I was studying, counterterrorism in the Middle East, I had no idea. I still, it was conceptual. It was completely and utterly conceptual. It was the reality of, and that's very scary as well, that the kind of people who are, studying at places like Reichman and Bari, maybe not Bari Ilan is more right, places like Reichman and Tel Aviv University, and they're only learning a conceptual education, that they're not learning a real estimation of, okay, things are different when you leave Tel Aviv. Things are different when you leave the Azor Sharon. When you go slightly north of Emek Hefer, and when you go slightly south of Beersheba, and when you go east to Yerushalayim, you're in the Middle East, okay? There's a little kind of, diamond shape whereby we can pretend that we're in Europe. We can live the lie, live the dream, so long as we don't come out of this fake, reality, fake bubble. And that also is why you see it very demographically. Why do people who live in Beersheba vote differently than people who live in Tel Aviv or Yerushalayim? Right? It's the fact that reality wakes you up to the situation. You don't have any other choice. You don't have any other choice than to start to think rationally. And what is morality, right? Because people say that this really bothers me, that the IDF is the most moral army in the world. And I know that bothers you as well, right?
And I think
Because
it's true.
we're the least moral army. And
I
and I
mean,
real I yeah, I
I
realize
know
that.
what you're saying,
Yeah. What does a moral army do? A moral army
but
puts its own soldiers first and does not risk the soldier's life for the hostile enemy civilians. But the twisted inversion morality that exists in our elite idiots, right? In our elite corrupt, I don't even have the word for them, right? It's that mindset that exists in them that Benny Gantz feels that he's proud of the fact.
you know where they learned that? Like,
Okay?
even in that standard, the IDF is still the most moral army, because
What do you mean?
the Americans are sacrificing their
Oh,
own
yeah,
soldiers way more,
way
way
more,
more,
way more.
way more.
But I even was like I even felt sick that Benny Gantz or Gallant, I can't remember which
Because
one
this
of
is
them it was.
the American doctrine that they studied from.
The self-sacrifice.
Yeah, the
The
Americans
the
do that. And when it comes to Arabs, Russians, like, they just go by numbers, and it's just like like whatever. This is like
you
meat,
know, can you
like
imagine? Can you imagine if what Biden would say to Zelensky if Zelensky started dropping leaflets on Russia, telling them to get out? Can you imagine? Or he was like, "I'm not going to use the big bombs." Biden would be like, "What are you doing? I'm giving you these bombs so that you win the war. Stop dropping leaflets. Stop warning them. Stop giving."
I
It's
wish it was like that.
oh
The
gosh,
Americans are sabotaging the Ukrainians too.
yeah, giving them just enough to fight, but not
The
enough
the
to win.
Americans are very consistent
Mhm,
with betraying their allies,
mhm,
not just
mhm,
us, everybody. It's just like, it depends on who is in charge, but basically they're consistent. They did it to the Indians. They did it to the Shah. They do it to everybody they work with, basically, to be honest.
yeah, double cross. I mean, we're obviously the ones that have been double crossed, I think, the most.
I think it's
Uh,
it's like that more because the United States markets, like the government, like the state markets itself towards their own people. Like, why
mhm,
they do that is because the American population wants to hear that the
mhm,
American government stands with Israel for moral and
mhm,
religious and like many different reasons.
mhm,
But this is why it's even more, because it's so loud. While other areas, they don't, it's quiet, right? It's not like there is such a declaration of friendship, or this is our greatest ally, or they just do it quietly and nobody looks at that.
You know, there's a saying, right, that that you know, it's better to be an enemy than it is to be a friend with you know, with it's better to be alone than to be in bad company, right? And I think that we're in very bad company, and we've been in very bad company for a really always.
Right.
I mean, you know, they had an arms embargo on us, and you know, every single this is really what I believe. Every single time the Americans have told us not to do something, like bombing Saddam Hussein's reactor, like bombing the Syrian reactor, they've told us not to do it. And every single time we've done it, they've respected us. And yet, every single time we have capitulated, they have resented us for it. Every time. Because they, you know, who on earth wants to stand by Israel if Israel is not strong? We're nothing if we're not strong. That's the thing which gives us some degree of protection, is the fact that we can project strength. And I, you know, if I really think about us, you know, and our capabilities, we can destroy any enemy in the Middle East in a week if we wanted to. It's a conscious decision, right? If you decide to do it, you do it, right? You don't wait. And you know, I think that we
You
don't
know
really
what's the
take.
biggest difference now?
Mm.
Is that now the Americans are in Iraq, and the fear is that they're gonna, if we want to go and
Oh.
attack the Iranian facilities, is that they're gonna, are the ones that are gonna bring our planes down.
But I think the Saudis have said that we can actually that we can, you know, fly the planes through
But
their
it's still,
airspace.
there is the biggest. You have a biggest base in Qatar, like that. It will be hard to go under the American radar. And to be honest, this is the thing, is like the irony, right? Is that the Americans are the ones that might go against us if we do anything now.
And
This is the radar that we might not be able to fly under is the American radar, which we could have when it came to Syria and Iraq.
you know, well, it's very scary, right? Because we have 150,000 missiles in the north, like we have that, which is more missiles. They have more missiles than some European countries. So they have all of that, and then also we have to deal with the Iranians are at breakout already. It's you know, I mean, it's and then what do we have to do? I mean, I guess, suppose we'll have to see if we can do anything with subversion. But you mentioned the fact that you think that Iran might be over. What do you think?
I think we should help it trample itself. Like
Yeah,
it's a question.
but
I don't know.
we should help push it. We should help push.
We
But then
should.
I feel as well that if the Americans wanted to topple the Iranian regime, they could topple the Iranian
Oh
regime.
no, they support the Iranian regime.
Why do you think that is? Why? Why do you think that is?
Or the same reason they support they decided to cooperate with the KGB on having a Palestinian state instead of having an Israeli state. It just, I think there are several theories for it. One, that some people in the deep state hate America. And
Detest
the other,
America.
hmm?
They detest America. Yeah.
Detest
The
America.
American haters. Yeah, the American haters. We also have them the
Yeah,
same
no,
time
it happens. Like
online.
the fear is what happens when they take over.
Mm-hmm.
And the other thing is that there is also this theory, like this American policy, where they believe that if they want to control with money.
Mm-hmm.
And you can only control with money those who are weak and those who are corrupt.
Mhm.
And then it's you can tell them do whatever they like you want them to do, just
Mhm.
by bribing the upper, and then like it's easier. So the theory is that it's easier to control those weak countries. Then there is a lot less problems, and this is another way, right? Like this is another theory that
Mhm.
they don't like strong allies. They just want weak allies that are not really allies, but you can shut people up by
Or puppets.
like puppets, yeah, and just using the corruption to get whatever they want.
I wonder as well, like, you know, I'm like I say, I'm reading this book for like the fifth time, right? And it's all about it's written by a KGB agent, and he talks a lot about you know, psyops and subversion and all of this stuff. And I wonder if DEI is part of that, because nothing DEI, especially when it's infiltrating in the military or the civil service, or the aerospace, I mean, all this stuff, right? It's something which is which threatens which threatens safety. Do you think that that was do you think that the spread and the institutionalization of that has been natural?
No,
Hmm.
it's been planned. It's been planned, and it started with the Soviet Union.
Sure.
Like DEI is this is what they learned in the Soviet Union. Like this is basically the behind the Communist Manifesto. This is what they teach.
Hmm.
So this very hardcore leftist ideas that were always there.
Hmm. Does it remind you of all of the Lebanese civil war? You know, where you have all of the different factions all demanding, you know, equal representation. And it feels to me very similar to that also in the US, that you have all of these, you know, a proportional representation of races and ethnic groups, and it's really shaking the foundations.
Yeah, I mean, okay, so this is what I'm gonna say with the West. A lot of people, I saw that like they get so protective when I go against the West. Okay.
Hmm.
And then I was like, oh, why do you go against Europe? Like, we're like, I was like, are you guys kidding? Like, those people that survived the Holocaust are still alive. You're gonna tell me that you're like, there is a real difference?
Yeah.
Like, that that Europe cannot become an awfully barbaric society real fast? Like, that there is something ingrained that is like better?
Hmm.
Like, no, it can happen to any society. It
Hmm.
just, the values are the thing. Is like, this is why you stop fighting for the values that made you who you are. You
Yeah.
see a complete like deterioration of society. This is what happens
Hmm.
when you start uh, ch- teaching your children what made you who you are.
Hmm.
It's not the society that we've built, the history that we've accumulated. It's not only in science. It took us years and years and years to refine our value system and moral values and like ideas, to have a structure that allows us to have this a function in society that can create and produce and build those very elaborate structures.
Hmm.
It took us, it is just as an advancement that
Hmm.
happened just the same way we advanced in technology. So with technology, it's very obvious. So what happens if you stop teaching? Like, look, this is the situation we're at.
Hmm.
One day, people came up and said and thought like and decided that computer science, engineering, physics is natural. Like, we know it, we studied it, right? We can do math. And therefore, our children were going to be born with mathematical skills. And so we don't need to teach them math anymore because we know math. And we don't need to teach them math.
No, they're born
So,
knowing it. They're born. Everybody's born knowing it. It's
so, so what people do not understand that there is no difference when it comes to moral system that we have. It's like one day the West decided that they have figured it all out and that people are born with those. It's as if it is ingrained in us. As if it's natural that we are the way we are morally, and that our society is structured the way it is, as if it's like the obvious way, and we stopped teaching the fundamentals that guide society to how to manage a society, the moral systems. So
I think also, when we think about, let's say, the revolution, right, in the Russian Revolution, the radical cadre of the Bolsheviks were only 500 people, right? Only 500 people were the radical cadre of the Bolsheviks. And it was the fact that there was no other ideology that was challenging, that they didn't have a sense of ideology, a sense of purpose, the Russians, a sense of self, okay, of who we are, of what we stand for. So they were able to be, I mean, Lenin used to be able to take lonely walks in Petrograd. People didn't know who he was. And so 500 people with a strong ideology are able to topple and have a revolution in a country that span three continents, right? Because of a lack of an ideology, and that's also what I see in the West, is that there is a lack of a meaning, a lack of an ideology, a lack of a sense of self, and that's, I think, really why they also hate Israel very much, because Israel is a country that has a very strong sense of self, and it wants to fight, and it's ready to fight. You know what I mean?
Yeah, indeed.
I think it really drives a lot of the very powerful resentment, right? That because there's a huge amount of jealousy, I think, a huge amount of jealousy that it's everything that Israel has kind of succeeded in creating. Yeah. So tell me your kind of frustrated video about the two-state solution. Um, you gave a really nice and I really enjoyed the interview that you did with Harris. I thought it was great. But you really got yourself. I really loved your points that you raised. Why do you think he got so kind of angry and frustrated with you, and then felt the need to make that video talking about how the Israelis are wrong? Or I can't believe he even said, I've never met an Israeli that thinks like that. I don't know an Israeli that doesn't
Actually, it
think
was
like
like that when this is the thing, we were like texting, and I told him that there are literal like statistics, about how many want to have a two-state, how many don't. Like, you cannot say that the most of Israelis want a two-state solution when it's clearly not true if you look at polls. So, and then even at that point, it was like, no, I don't believe it. Like, it's like, all right.
We don't want it. We don't want it. We've understood what the hell it is. It's just phase one in the plot to destroy us.
Yeah.
And also, by the way, they don't deserve a state. They don't deserve it. They don't deserve it. It's that they are not going to have a state that would ever respect individual rights. In Area A, if you sell your property to a Jew, you can be killed for it. Oh, you're gone, Rebecca?
I'm out. 1 sec.
No problem.
Oh, sorry. To be honest, I kind of want to eat, so I don't not, but like I have course, like
تاكليه ما
yeah,
زشت yeah
like
yeah لامولو
all right.
تاكليه
There are
no
a couple, like there are a couple of super
يلا
chats. Can you go through
go
them?
go for it yeah go for it
I cannot show them. Can you?
oh okay I'm sorry okay we have you go ahead and read it
Can you read it? One second.
Israel spent decades trying to be respected and loved by its neighbors, and that didn't work. Unfortunately, this means it must be feared in order to command any political capital with its neighbors. Absolutely. I
Yeah.
completely agree. And by the way, I don't want my prime minister to be a cuddly figure that I'm going to love and, want to have as a friend. Yair Lapid, for example, I'm sure he's a
Oh,
great guy. I'm sure
I
I'm
mean,
sure he
I'm
would be
sorry, is an idiot.
but I'm sure that
Mm,
he would be a nice person to be neighbor of, right? Nachon? He wouldn't bother
I
you.
mean,
You think you'd have problems, but I don't want him to be the prime minister. You,
no,
I want
is
my
there
prime
like,
minister
listen,
to smear blood on his face and go,
can I say
"Blah!"
something like about Yair Lapid?
Yalla.
Like inner
Okay.
info. So he was, he was the in the Ministry of Treasury.
hmm
And anyway, the way it works is that you get a minister that has like a general direction they want to go to, more like, more capitalist, more socialist,
hmm
but the people that work and present the statistics, they don't change. They just
hmm
bring the data and
hmm
like write this like different scenarios and explain the scenarios. And then the policymaker is going to be the minister, right?
hmm
So the person who does that, like presents those statistics, was also my father's patient
hmm
in the hospital. And he said that he worked with like, I don't know, like a good amount of ministers. And every time they show the statistics, the ministers understand. And then, they have their policy. Everybody has a different policy. And so it's like when it came to Yair Lapid, he was the only minister ever that basically didn't understand anything we told him. Like we brought up data and he mixed it up. He went out to the public to present the economical situation of Israel, and he would get all the data mixed up. Like he would
Sure,
get it
he's a
all
journalist.
wrong, because
He's
no
a
matter how
journalist.
many times the uh, the like the people who present the data try to explain to him what it means, he wouldn't get it. Like he wouldn't understand it. Like he would
Mhm.
not understand the numbers in front of him. And so like he said, like he
He
was the
doesn't
only,
understand politics
like he
either.
said, in his career he worked with everyone, left, right,
Sure.
ultra orthodox, like a super secular. Never had they had a case where the person in front of them that just couldn't understand like the data, like the basic like numbers. Like
Worrying. It's very
yep.
worrying. I don't listen. I have to say that I'm a floating voter. I've always have been. I mean, I've voted in nearly every election that we've had, so like 12 elections or something. And I'm not what's the word? I'm not loyal to anybody. But I don't I was very fond of Ayelet Shaked. I really did enjoy her. I liked just the fact that she understood individual rights, that she was all about capitalism, and then of course, like all Israeli politicians, she betrayed the voters, and, and now she's like a person. Was it really worth it? For those 18 months, was it really worth it? Right? What they did. Because if you, I mean, I voted for Ayelet Shaked because I thought that she would form a government with other people like her. I didn't think she would form a government with the
With a bunch.
Muslim Brotherhood.
Yeah.
Of- and so, like, sub, and share, and throw the zai. Oh
Yeah.
yeah, give
Thank
us
you,
the
Ashida.
shekel, the shkolim.
Thank you for
Give
your
us the
support.
shkolim. Give us give us your shekels, guys. Give
Yeah,
them. We
the
need them. We need
electorate.
them.
Actually, the
We need them.
Soviet Union system went against the Communist Manifesto. It was never supposed to be a dictatorial spying system. I know because we were behind the Iron Curtain. So to be honest, the Communist Manifesto is the most empty word kind of document ever. But the thing is, like, the first half of it, if you think of it, like when I looked at it, I was like, this is just describing a corporate. If you switch the state to a company, then those are corporates. Like corporates, like work like the first half or so of the manifesto, of the Communist Manifesto, where the corporates like take care of everything. You know, where you have the kindergarten in the corporate, and you have like
Central planning.
and you have menayot. You know.
So people are talking. Tony is mentioning something. I thought the Israeli protesters were preventing aid going into Gaza. So, I mean, this is a very hot button subject. I, personally don't believe in providing aid to your enemy, and allowing them to continue the fight to kill you. But that's the way I personally feel, right? On an individual level, of course, you want to help people, but I do believe it is a moral crime to provide assistance to those who seek to destroy you, to give them the means to continue the jihad against you another day. It's just what I think. Maybe it's maybe it's a little bit tough, but you know what? That's what's going to speak here. That's what speaks in this area. Being nice doesn't speak. Doesn't
I
speak.
think the Europeans are kind of learning that now.
Yeah. And it's actually very scary, because if you think about the only thing, there will be a true far right movement in Europe, because it's inevitable, because people are going to get very angry at Islamic terror, because you you can take it's very, very, very easy to take people and artificially plant them somewhere else. It's very easy to change the location of people. It's very difficult to change their culture. Very, very difficult. And it's, if you think of it as well, what Islam came to do, I mean, it came to unite the ummah, right, and to get rid of all of the tribalism. And it's completely and utterly failed. And I think that when we look at places like Afghanistan, where you have 9 tribes, the thing that holds the society together are the nakamat dam, the blood feuds. How do you even explain what a blood feud is?
This is not it's funny. The draconian laws were written due to blood feuds that were happening in the Greek society. This is then do not murder. It's like stopping it's about blood feuds more than anything.
Yeah. And you see that a lot. It's very, very easy to just change the location of people and just wish for a different outcome. The thing that is actually harder is to change people's culture. But it was interesting, because America used to have a very powerful, strong culture, and people who emigrated to America became Americans.
People forget how brutal America was, how brutal the jail system in America was, how their death penalties, how brutal like the gun ownership, right? Like this very strong mentality that
I
was
own a gun.
like people are like, yeah, America was like that, and they managed to integrate all those different kind of people because it was brutal part of it. It's like, it's not for nothing. There was nothing scarier than the American police, like nothing as scarier than the FBI.
Yeah, of course, the FBI are terrifying. They're like the
There
Politburo.
was nothing scarier
Internal
than your
police.
local sheriff.
I'm scared of the Shabak. So I mean, I don't know about you. I'm terrified of the Shabak. I really am scared of them. I mean, I suppose. Well, listen, a lot has really kind of uh, opened our minds up. I think in the last, I would say, 15 years, to the real nature of who I'm very concerned about who these elite people are who are making the laws in our country, who seem to be entirely um
Right.
what's the word? They're dissociative. They're dissociated
Yeah,
from
person like Ehud Barak, which was
Ehud
always
Barak.
always
מה
a
הוא עשה
psychopath.
לנו? אוי, כן, מה הוא עשה?
He was always a
Like,
psychopath, though. A
כן,
jealous,
but
ugly, sly
wow.
man with
I
psychopathic.
mean, what he did with Lebanon, giving that territory over to Lebanon, we didn't have a peace agreement with them. Why would you give territory back that you won in a defensive
So
war? Where
ugly.
and he was the Ramatkal. He was the Ramatkal. How long was he Ramatkal?
No, no. When we left Lebanon, he was the prime minister.
No, I know, but he was also the Ramatkal for like a very long time, wasn't he?
I don't remember.
He scares me a lot. I really wish that he would
He's
just
scary.
not be in politics anymore.
Yeah. Why is
He
he still
he why
active?
does he
Dude, like,
why does he want us to commit suicide? Why does he want us to do that? Why? What is it? It's very scary.
I think
You know
it's
why?
personal vengeance.
For
He's
what?
just that kind of person. Personal vengeance.
Yeah, but he won't stop. What party was he again?
I
Yeah, he
mean,
was
he
Labour.
was he
Yeah.
was basically humiliated out of office. Do you think he's the kind of person who wouldn't like go on a
Right.
revenge against the whole country? He's
Yeah,
exactly the kind of person who would try to avenge
mhm.
his humiliating experience when the whole country basically kicked him out of office in the most disgraceful way
Well,
because he deserved
yeah.
it.
The thing
He's
is
exactly the
that
kind of person who would try to bring the country down
well, he
as
did.
a
I mean,
vengeance.
he offered
That's what he's doing.
he
That's
offered
what he's trying to do. Is exactly that a
he
person that's going
offered
to do that.
he offered Yehuda Shomron to
Yeah, he's avenging.
Arafat, to Arafat of all people. It's like, but it is really scary who is running our internal police and who is running our external police, who's running the show. It's because they clearly don't appear to be related to reality, these analysts, and that's
No, they're not
frightening.
related to
It's frightening
anything.
that you and I can have, I think, a better idea about what's going on than also Islam.
Because they also don't walk around the normal people.
They wouldn't dare get on a bus. They would not dare get on a bus from Tel Aviv to Yerushalayim. They would rather be carried around like a baby. You can imagine baby Barak, baby Ehud Barak, and all of us. It was the same thing. It was what's her name? Marav Michaeli. She did a video where she got where she was on a bus talking about sexual harassment, right? It was, some kind of campaign thing. And I was like, Marav, you've never been on a bus. You've literally never been on a bus. What would you know about the buses?
I mean,
What
she
would you know
tried at
about the
least.
bus? At least she tried. Oh, sorry. Are you a fan? I'm sorry.
No, I literally have zero opinion.
Really?
Hmm.
I think she's also trying to take us down from the inside as well.
You think so?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, listen, her
It's really
grandfather
hard to
was a
tell from the outside. Hmm?
her grandfather was a capo.
Oh, you say it's genetic.
I think so. I think it's genetic. Listen, if your grandfather's a capo, you don't live that down.
It's
You know.
interesting, like going in the USSR, it's like two siblings can go to two different directions.
Hmm. So yeah, I wanted to talk to you about Islam, right? Because
Oh, by
I
the way, there is another comment. Start comment.
Oh, go on, go on.
No, I cannot show it. It's
Oh,
the
okay.
screen.
Okay, yeah, sorry. So Karl Marx's earning zero income when his
He
wife
was.
offered him a job. He started stuttering. Well, he was too busy writing letters to his mother,
I mean,
asking her for money, telling her.
I think it was mentally unstable kind of person.
But doesn't that really show you the power of ideas that
I
you
mean,
can have?
yeah, all the mentally unstable people are following that.
It's either that or Islam, the two worst ideas ever. No, really ever. Why do you think Israelis have not woken up to the reality of Islam? When I talk to Israelis about it, it's like blank face, you know? Oh, I didn't know that they believed that.
Yeah, I
Really?
think a lot of them just don't want to know. Yeah,
They don't want why they don't want to face the facts?
they just don't want to think about it.
Hmm. About the Battle of like they don't even know basic stuff about, the Battle of Khyber, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, so what do you think what do you think would be the appropriate next phase in the once we've gotten over the two state? What do you think, and how on earth would we go about with this education plan of yours?
I mean, how do you go about education? Same way you do everywhere. Just like
Hmm.
force people to go to school.
Like yeah, I guess I would listen. I don't know if anybody, but we have to come we have to what's the term? We have to come up with a different solution. We have to come up with a different way. We can't, and we also really should stop listening to anybody that's speaking to us from the outside.
Definitely,
That's
yeah.
also extremely important. What do you think about the protest movement? Did you think it was natural?
Well, no,
What do you think happened?
it's paid for. My sister, it's the exactly her age group, and she said like she knows a lot of people that were paid to go protest.
For
To go
who's
protest,
paying
the
for it?
people were paying for it.
Who's paying for it? Who do you think is paying? Because to me, I have to say, for the
I
past two
know
years,
V15 campaign was Obama.
which one?
V15.
Uh-huh. Okay.
I'm pretty like it was like, but also Germany funds a lot of stuff like that.
Hmm.
Was funding at least.
Hmm.
Could be,
For me, it was all the past two
but
years
I
have.
guess also individuals, things
Oh,
like.
for sure. I knew people who were donating to the protest movement. For me, it was like an unnatural like spectacle that I was
Mhm.
seeing. I did not feel like I lived. I didn't know like I felt like there was kind of 75,000 people in the whole country, which is very, a small percentage of people who were very, very passionate, but I didn't understand about what. I didn't understand the hysteria. Um, and I felt at the moment I would talk about it, I would get like a very aggressive, passive, like kind of bullshit answer basically to
Yeah,
you know,
yeah, 100% bullshit answer. A lot of them were like, I think a lot were maybe afraid in theory that this could be like a super hardcore religious country where nothing would be allowed on the Sabbath and things like that.
mhm. But to tell you the truth, our ultra orthodox are not politically ambitious at all.
No,
All they want is just to make sure that they keep getting their checks.
it's not okay either. Let's be honest.
No, it's horrendous. What do you
It's
mean?
awful. Like
I'm
they don't.
completely
I don't
against it.
understand. Like how they do that. Like a lot of them, they don't study the Torah. They don't know anything. They live like they're barely Jewish with the way they are. A lot of them. Like seriously.
Mm. Well, I have a lot more sympathy for them than because I think I was exposed because I did, Shahut Leumi and stuff. So I was exposed to it a
It
little bit.
depends. If it's like in a stage where you do Shahut Leumi, then great.
Hmm.
I'm talking about those who don't even do that.
No, no, no. I mean just I'm meaning just that I did I volunteered quite a bit in the community, and I still
Oh,
do, um like with domestic violence,
mhm.
and women who are escaping all kinds of stuff, and the funding, the financing of this has to stop because it is paralyzing this community, this extremely capable community that has an thriving underground Hasidic economy. These are very, very, very productive, very industrious people, and you need to stop giving them money because you're killing that fire, you're killing that spirit.
Yeah.
It's not right at all. If people
They also
listen,
they vote the same way, like in the sectorial voting without even thinking. It's
Gimel,
awful.
Shas, they
Like
don't
they
think.
vote for mafia people.
Well, that's the thing that reminds me of Lebanon. That everybody is voting for their small special interest group, right? For me, all I need is for the politician to come out and say, I do not support forming a Palestinian state, and I will not, and I promise that, then I will I, I will listen to what you have to say, but you have to start the conversation with that. Okay, that's the basis. Because the latest statistics are 92% of Jews reject the formation of a Palestinian state, and 85% of Arabs, Israeli Arabs. So you have a supermajority who do not support it. It's suicide in every way. They don't deserve it as well. They don't function as anything. They function like a gang. Nothing outside of Ramallah works.
Yeah.
They have so much money, which we need to help them to collapse. That's the We're artificially holding them up. If we weren't there, I want to ask me from Daniel Cohen. So Daniel, as a Haredi, you say as a Haredi, I did not vote in the last municipal election. Okay. No, okay. Why? Write to us and tell us why. Yeah, someone's saying, I mean, the West, in the West, the current Israeli government has been called the most right wing in history. So you'd expect most Israelis would be pretty anti-Muslim. Most right wing in history is, I don't know where this has come from.
I think people
The
are confusing. We're not anti anything. It's pro Israel.
Mhm. Yeah, we're not anti anything. We are just pro our survival
And pro
here,
values and
pro
morals.
values and
Yeah.
morals, and individual rights, and property rights, and capitalism. We are pro all of these things. We are anti Sharia. We are anti tribal Nikamat Dam. We're anti
I
blood
mean, it goes
feuds.
against our basic values. We don't need to be anti. It's like,
Hmm.
it's not anti-Islam. It just, okay, it doesn't follow it doesn't follow the Jewish traditions or the Jewish values or the values of the Jewish people in general.
Hmm.
So we're like, we fight against that. Why they do it, their problem. This is also part of the mentality. It's like, who cares if it's from Islam or something else? Like, we don't believe it's true. That's it. Like, why would we even care where it comes from?
It really doesn't matter. It
It
really
doesn't
doesn't matter
matter.
where it comes from. If it comes from people who want to be communists,
Mhm.
if it comes from people who want it, we need to just reject it all and
Yeah,
say,
it's like,
thank you very much. We don't need this nonsense.
exactly. Like, you
We
don't
have
have to
our
think
own
about it,
nonsense.
right? Like, is the cult a Jewish cult or an Arab cult? Cults are not okay. Does it matter?
We don't want
Like,
it.
who cares? It's ridiculous. It's like, okay, the only thing you have to do is be strong with your values and
Hmm.
know where your moral camp, like what your morals are. And it doesn't matter. You don't have to be anti anything.
Well, I think that us just being pro-life in the sense that we're pro us living, that is being Islamophobic, right? Just us not wanting to die is extremely Islamophobic. That's really the truth.
The hell who cares what they think? Like, we want to be pro-life. Just the other thing is that the fact that Israelis are like that also gives the Arabs an option to never mention that Islam is against life. They're like, okay, you're pro-life. That's it.
Like, and they hold it
they cannot
us.
say something you're an Islamophobe, because then what? They're going, oh, Islam is actually pro-death, so by saying you're pro-life, you're Islamophobe. They cannot. It's just like, you don't even go against Islam. You just say, hey, we're pro-life. This is not okay. And what are they going to answer to you? Like, oh yeah, but Islam sucks, so this is what we believe in.
Yeah, so
even they know it doesn't sound good. There is this basic instinct when people do understand what kind of sounds good or what it doesn't sound good.
Right, yeah. So Alex, what you said about Muslims trying to take over the world but didn't succeed because of tribalism, that is true. After all, the Ottomans and even others only made us Hungarians even more tribal. That's right. And all of the DEI training that people have done as well in the West has just made them better tribalists. That's it. They're just better at being tribal. And tribalism is the way that you know that your culture is ending. When people are because what am I bound by? I'm bound by our sense of values. I'm bound by our shared history, but you, Rebecca, are completely an individual, and I'm completely an individual. That we are existing in the same space together, right? In life, okay? And maybe sometimes I won't like you, maybe sometimes you won't like me. Okay, we'll just have to deal with that, We'll just have to cry at night.
This is also what I like about, I think is important in Israeli and Jewish culture traditionally, is that we argue case by case.
A lot.
But it's case by case. Like, the culture is that you sit in a table, you can agree on one thing, and the next sentence disagree with, and you're gonna call it out. Like, there is no that I don't like the like, even Israeli society trying to be like, like voting without like the left or the right. Like the reason we have so many parties is because we could not agree on two things.
Are you a loyal voter?
I think kinda yes and no.
Let me guess.
I always rethink my votes.
I think I know who your man is.
Who?
Is he from Moldova?
I have no idea.
Lieberman? You're more Lieberman. No, not at all.
Hell
Okay.
no.
No, I don't know.
He doesn't do anything.
Ken.
Why would I vote for him? It's a waste of voting.
He'll just join the Muslim Brotherhood.
I mean, I think it's because the jurisdictional system got him by the balls.
Yeah.
So if they go against their liberal ideas of Aaron Barak, then it's gonna get screwed. So he's he's just an empty vote grabber, basically.
So Daniel's saying also the saying we hate each other the most now is a lie told by both political sides. Yeah, I agree, because I was noticing this a year ago that people were talking as if they could never in a million years ever talk with a Haredi person again. And the same way a Haredi person was like, the secular people, I'm like, it's nonsense, total nonsense. We've always managed to get along here up until this
we were
point.
always dramatic, though.
We were always dramatic.
We were always
fighting.
We were always
fighting.
dramatic. It was, I'm not gonna talk to this person anymore until next
You're
Friday.
done. You're done. You're dead to me. You're just
You're
dead
there.
to me. Well,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah. That really is the whole that really is the whole approach, right, that we have here.
Mm-hmm.
And but I did feel like on October 6th, I did feel very nervous
Yeah.
about our future here before October 7th. I felt very scared about where we're going with this intense tribalism,
Yeah.
um and it felt I didn't want to leave the house on a
This is
Saturday
what's
night.
scary when it comes to those like protests,
Hmm.
that people stop thinking.
Hmm.
Like, if you're LGBTQ rights, right? This is where you come from.
Hmm.
Like, shouldn't you stop and think if BLM works for you at all?
Hmm.
Like, it's ridiculous. Like, stop and think. Like, what are you, or like, what are your boundaries
Yeah, you mean the protests in the US?
in general? Like any protest, right? Like, this is what we see happening. Is like the tolerance level of those who participate.
Hmm.
What I notice is like even here, right? They start with something that is very general, that that might be a legitimate fear, let's say, right?
Hmm.
And then they gradually like make it more and more extreme,
Hmm.
where at some point you're like, you have to get pull out, right? Like LGBT, the moment you put Q in LGBT, I think people like the LGBT community had to say, hey, queer doesn't exist, it's not a thing. You guys, what is queer? There is no queer. Why are you adding a Q? This is just, if somebody is queer, I know they're just attention seeking people.
No, what they like is they like to get slapped a little bit on
No,
the
that's
tuchel.
fetish. Like, this is not
That's what I
LGBT.
mean.
That's
That's
like,
what
that's keep it between you. This is where it becomes extremely, like, this is keep it in the bedroom, kind of
Mhm.
situation. Like, this is
Yeah.
where it should have been, like the LGBT people that are decent human beings that just want to like live their lives, like being not being forced into a situation like the way, for example, a national hero like Alan Turing, it's a national shame that
Hmm.
something like that story, right? Like, this is why you have to have the LGBT movement, and in
Hmm.
general, kids need to know that it exists, because the thing is that I always say is that why is it important to have that visuality, is because there will always be families that would, or sects that would try to deny that this option exists at all, and those kids grow up feeling that they're crazy.
Okay, so listen, I think first of all, I would say that I don't think transgenderism is really a thing. I think, and for me, in a very I'm going to be very straight up way, when I hear of a girl, of a young teenager who is wanting to have surgery on her breasts, I really
No, but this is why you
feel
have to have, like, this is another limit, right? Even somebody like I think Blair, what's her name, a trans
Blair White, yeah, Blair White.
Blair White, she says
He's
like,
yeah.
you cannot you have to like be a certain age
Hmm.
before you do that.
Sure. Well, I mean, listen. Okay.
Because you
On.
cannot deny, even the Talmud talks about it. Even the Talmud talks about transgenderism. It has
Well,
been, it
it.
existed since forever.
I think true. Listen. What I truly believe is that okay. So there's two very distinctive types of men who put on women's clothes, right? You have men like Blair White who are just very gay. You know. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like they're almost like Kinsey Nines, right?
It's
And
it's
then
a it's a body dysmorphia.
no,
It's
fine. I don't
body
I don't want to label whatever it is. Like I think that Blair has the right to put on the women's clothes and have all the surgery that he wants to have. That's fine. That's his right as an individual. I
Mm-hmm.
just don't I just think he's a gay man that likes to wear women's clothes, and that's fine. Okay? That's fine. It's not my thing, but I'm fine with it. Okay? But the other men, the straight men who wear women's clothes, they're doing it because it turns
That's
them
the
on.
cue.
Turns them on. It
That's
turns
the
them on.
Q. That's the Q. This is why I'm saying LGBT, no Q. The Q is
No,
where
I
the
think
craziness starts.
so. I
This
think
is
I
where it
think
stops being like this is where it starts being legit.
I think. Listen, I think that we have to, listen, we're reasonable people who believe in, I think reality, right? We have to be realistic and we have to be rational. I think that I don't know what age you are. I'm 36. So in my age group, my time, right, which was not that long ago, there were a lot of girls who had a fad, an obsession, up until the age of 25 with anorexia, with cutting. And these
Oh,
were girls who
yeah.
who
Yeah,
they
that's true. It's the older,
so
a little bit.
and
Yeah.
So, and this is what I think is that in every population of teenage girls, you have fads where, because it's very uncomfortable to be a teenage girl. You have your period, you're getting hair places, you're
Oh, yeah.
smelling, men are starting to look at you, sometimes you're not feeling so comfortable about it. And that experience, right, is very hard, and these girls, in my opinion, are having a completely natural reaction to that
I also don't
experience.
believe that transgenderism from female to male, that's really,
Exists.
really, it's really, really, really rare. It's really, really rare. That's the
I don't,
thing.
I think there's no
Way
such
more
thing as
rare than the other way around.
there's no such thing, in my opinion, as a true transgender individual. If somebody
I don't
believes
know
that they
what's
have,
going to be there.
it's because, I just feel that what did gays and lesbians want, right? They wanted to be accepted and not discriminated against, and just I am who I am, and just don't discriminate against me, and I want to live my life for me. That's that is not the same thing as a man telling me that he's a woman and that I have to play along. I
But
mean,
okay, so
it
I'm
goes
gonna
a bit
say like
too
honest
far.
trans, I think from what I've met, honest trans
Mhm.
people would never ask it from you.
Okay.
That's the thing. They would never ask it from you. It's
So I
their own thing, right?
no,
And
that's
like their test is whether they get like the way they feel they have succeeded is when people like automatically
mhm.
address them the gender they want to be.
Yeah. Well, so for I've spent let the same way I had an ideological development, right? As an Israeli, right? It took me 20 years, I think. I've also had an ideological revolution when it comes to the whole transgender thing. I also was because the moment I really started to investigate this subject and think about it very seriously and really really think logically, okay, about this phenomenon, I realized it doesn't exist. It's if you feel that you're a woman, that's okay. That's
Yeah,
fine.
and
It's
that's what
totally
I'm
fine.
thinking too.
But there
But you
are
cannot be treated as a woman, like not in a
no,
sense,
because
like
you're not.
you're
You're
not,
not.
of course.
And it's I think also this idea of changing sex is ludicrous because you can't change sex.
No,
You
you
can have
cannot.
surgery to and you
No.
know what I would like to see, Rebecca? Really? I would love to see it. It hurts me when I see these girls. It actually
No,
causes
the
me
girls that change, okay, I'm sorry, I
distress.
don't believe in it either, right?
Hmm.
I do believe that male to female exists.
Hmm.
This is what I
Okay.
believe in.
So I'll work on you.
Because that I'll tell you why. Because
Hmm.
there's so much, like people would mutilate themselves,
Yeah.
you know,
Hmm.
to go from male to female.
Hmm.
You know, people would do that.
Hmm.
This is how like psychologically distressed they are.
Hmm. Hmm. So listen. This is
And if you
just
ask
my.
me, if somebody cannot do the actual like
Hmm.
technical thing that that men can do and women cannot because they took it off, the heck I like, you know.
Listen, I've also spent a really long time as well writing about pornography, and the kind of the effects of pornography on men. And there are very specific types of pornography. I mean, I spent a long time writing about it and thinking about it and investigating it and watching it and writing about it, right, from a critical perspective, from a, you know, from a perspective of someone who wants to get to the the bottom of the onion, right? To see it for what it is.
Okay, can I say something like when it comes to like what I think?
Uh-huh.
I'm not anti. Like the same
Mm-hmm.
with this Islam. I'm not
Mm-hmm.
anti-transgender trans
Mm-hmm.
thing. I'm not anti-queer. But
Mm-hmm.
there are boundaries.
Mm-hmm.
There are things you don't cross. And that's it for me, you know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like this is how I think about it, you know what? Because I don't care.
Mm-hmm.
But there are boundaries.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Yeah,
it.
there's boundaries. Yeah, there's boundaries, and but I also think it also speaks very well to us you know, Israelis and Jewish people, that we're even having this conversation, where we're discussing, are we being too tolerant, right? To
Um,
you know, because
you
you
know,
know what I
yeah,
mean?
yeah, I don't know because like I know transgenderism, like the amount of suicide you
Hmm.
get when it's untreated
Hmm.
is really, really high.
Hmm.
So this is why I disagree with taking it away completely. You know, it's
Hmm.
pikuach nefesh if you ask me.
Can no, you know, I
The,
don't.
the
I mean,
suicide levels are high when you
I
don't let it happen.
so I also investigated this as well, because this is in my opinion, this is a psychiatric population, right? This
Oh
is a
yeah, they are 100%. But we
and
don't have we don't have better medication. If we
mhm,
had better medication, then yeah, of course. But the thing is that right now, like this is literally, if you go to the doctor, this is the only thing that the doctor can offer you
mhm,
to calm that feeling down because there is no medication.
mhm. No, I also wonder as well, if I don't believe medication is the solution. I truly believe it. If you have a deep distress, you know how many of my friends have had breast implants, thinking it's going to change something about their
Mm.
lives, and then they're miserable. I think therapy would be good, getting to the bottom of the issue. And you know, also I'd like to see us move beyond this gender bullshit, and let's actually have a real movement about accepting our bodies and not having invasive plastic surgeries because we feel there's something wrong with us. Is I don't think there's anything wrong
Hmm.
with the any, and I don't want to tell somebody that there's something wrong with them. You know what I mean?
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. Like I don't like I said before, it's like it's there is a limit to how much you can intervene in other people's life.
But oh no, I don't want to interview in anybody's life. Anybody. I'm sort of more thinking on the terms of like having an awakening, right? Having an awakening to a higher consciousness about
So
what
here's
is.
my thing. It cannot be, you have to be at least 25
Hmm.
when your brain need to finish developing, which is 25. All right.
Hmm.
This is a boundary if you ask me. All right.
Hmm.
You cannot go into women's spaces
Hmm.
if you can do something to a woman that another woman cannot do.
Hmm.
Like,
Yeah.
mm,
So I also, there's another problem here. In I'm not sure if you know this because you're not in the world, this world, right? But there are men who identify as women who are trying to get into Nevetirtse, right? These
yeah,
you
this is
know,
what I'm saying. Though those people should be hanged.
mamash, and the
No, those are
Nevet
this
Baho.
is the
These are
queer. This is not. This is not.
fucking they're messed up people,
They're
very
just
messed up,
they're
and they're
the you know they're like
perverts.
also you know what, this is what I hate about why I think it should have been LGBT, because what you're
Hmm.
describing when they're men, that's Q, that's already the
Hmm.
Q part. They're not
Hmm.
real trans, right? They're
Okay.
not real trans. And And the really scary is when they're gonna start to fight for P, for the
Yeah.
letter P. And this is where it's like, we're getting there when they start
Hmm.
addressing children and like teaching the things to children. No, children are off limits. This is where,
Legamle.
by the way, who is advocating for P and are playing along with LGBT is the Muslims, right there. And then, or like maybe there are elements in those, like a lot of LGBT people are against. Like, you know, I know a lot of, I know like I have a lesbian friend. She's against pride. She is against
But no,
everything.
yeah,
Like,
okay, come on. This is, yeah, but,
I
that's
mean, she says
oh,
I'm lesbian, but what is this thing? It's like it's not like a sexual thing. Like it's not like that. It's just it's
yeah, but you know,
private.
the ladies in Israel have not her are very very against this whole thing. They're very vocal about it, you know,
Right. But
extremely vocal.
like at some point, like also, you know, a lot of gays are like that. Like Douglas Murray,
Hmm.
Dave Rubin, they're all gay and they're all speak against it. Right.
Hmm.
So it's not like LGBT should have never added any other letters to it. And then what I think is happening is
Hmm.
that those LGBT are actually not LGBT. They belong to either the Q or the P uh,
Hmm.
um, people that actually cooperate with the Islamists, because they both Islamists and those QP people want to add the P.
Yeah, that's really yeah, I agree with you. It's really, really scary that we're actually moving in that we're actually
The
moving
P
in that.
part is like, this is scary because the P
Hmm.
part was very, very, this is why Judaism went so strongly against homosexuality, because the P part was very, like very, very widespread.
Well, yeah, I suppose. Listen, I mean, you know, it's also going back to what people were actually getting up to back then, right? It was, you know, the kind of idea was like it's not gay if it's a, you know, boy, right? If
Exactly.
it's
That's
like
the
it's not
thing.
really gay. That's
This is why it's like, this is why I said, like, it's later people understood that it doesn't have to be a boy. It could be
hmm.
two adults that actually have like a ability to consent,
Hmm.
right? This is where the perception started to change.
Hmm. לגמרי, כן.
But
And,
now,
and, and
what do you think? What happens with LGBT? LGBT. I don't want to call them LGBT because I don't think it's LGBT. I think it's the Q, and the plus and the things like that that are cooperating with
so
Muslims. Those are both two groups that want to add the P.
mhm. Well, I mean, you know, for I say like I don't say LGBT. I say gays and lesbians. That's what I say. Because listen, I maybe I'm a little bit
Yeah,
older
even
than you,
bisexuality is kind of funny.
but it's not that. Listen, my friends, my people who are my age, 36, they're in many ways much more open and much more. When I say open, they, you know, I have friends that are all of a sudden just doing something completely different, right? You know, her with men, now they're with women, or vice versa. And there's a lot more kind of like Barry Weiss is a great example. All of a sudden, she just, you know, she was with men all her life, and then she just gets married to a woman and whatever. So it's I think the younger generation is a lot, because they're tribal, they're a lot more obsessed with like, am I a non-binary? Am I a zeh? Am I this? Am I that?
Mhm.
And they're driving each other crazy trying to figure out what special group they belong to. I mean, I can't imagine. So you know, I do have a friend. I have an ex-friend who wrote me a letter telling me she was a they them
Oh
person.
my.
She's been a lesbian all her life. She writes me a letter saying she's a they them. I said, don't. I said, don't email me again. I'm not interested. I'm really not interested. In the nicest possible way, right? In the nicest possible way. And Eli Ohana is saying, but how will you create a new tribe? We want to create a tribe of rational people who are believe in rationality, objective morality, objective order. That's what we want. We want to have this consciousness of the tribe of the uber rationals, of the objectivists.
Yeah.
Ken, so listen, what else did you wanna talk about on the stream?
I don't know. Is there anything interesting in the comments that people are chatting?
يلا تلخي.
Let me see. Oh, I think three genders: men, women, and those who don't look like. It's from the Ashla region. Thank you for your support, everyone. And also,
Yeah.
Ayatollah Khamenei has a comment here. People with mental illness deserve kindness and respect, regardless of specific delusion, whether they're schizophrenia.
Sure.
Yeah, if they don't hurt anyone, especially, it's like.
Well, I think as well, though, we do have to be quite vigilant sometimes of certain men who are making demands that are unreasonable of us.
No, they shouldn't be making demands at all.
Mhm.
Like, that's the thing. It's like it's their circle. It's like one person, right? If people around you start thinking that you look more like a female, it wouldn't come like that. Calling somebody a he when they look like a she, it's really hard.
Mhm.
Like, it's like you have to work harder to make that happen, to get it out of you, because it's like you have to, like,
Mhm.
like looking at Blair White and calling it a he is like you have to work hard. It doesn't click.
So I tell you why, for me, truly, I don't read Blair as a woman. I really read Blair as a gay man, and that's fine. It's I think that really is the way, because
But for
in
you, but
my
then it's okay, because
sure,
I'm sure they wouldn't, like, I'm sure
I'm sure
they
he
wouldn't
doesn't
care.
care. I'm
It
sure he
doesn't
doesn't care.
care,
I'm sure he doesn't care.
it doesn't
Um,
care, and this is how it should be.
yeah, but it's I of course I reject the concept, but but I just actually reject the harm that all of this general stuff has done. If
Yeah,
people wanted to cross dress at the weekend, you go for it. But it's a whole package that we're talking about here. It's men in women's prisons and children getting hormones and a lot of stuff that is flat out wrong. It's mamash, flat out wrong.
I think this is why it's so important to have those, like, boundaries are important. You can't
Hmm.
go too extreme either way. You cannot have an Alan Turing situation. This man is a hero. Like,
Hmm.
seriously, like, that doesn't make sense.
What do you think is going to happen in the next year? If you had a crystal ball,
What do you mean?
you tell me. What do you think is going to happen in the next year, in the next 12 months in
Lots of
Eretz
street
Israel?
fights,
Ken,
and all over the world, not necessarily Israel. But
what do you think could push us through it? What do you think could wake us up? Because we had an experience that woke us up and united us.
you
I
think?
mean,
I think a lot of people are, like, kind of woken up.
mhm,
Um, but I think, like, what makes Israelis or Jews strong in general is just you know who you are,
mhm,
right? And you cannot be swayed either way, right?
mhm.
Like, because it, you know what, how it goes. It's like, you're not gonna join like, you're not gonna support a sexual display, let's say, in front of kids. But that doesn't
Mhm.
also mean that you have to participate in a hunt down the gay game either.
No,
Because
but
those are the two extremes that happen. Is like, oh,
of
you see
course
why
it's
we
the
need
two
to hunt them?
extremes.
Like, this is the mentality, right? It's like, oh, look, those gays are doing this and that. This is why we need to hunt them down. Like,
Mhm.
let's, like,
But thankfully in Israel, I really feel that besides Arab society, I don't think that homophobia is widespread. I
yeah.
think generally people in Israel are very live and let live, very live and let live. And they're kind of like, okay, all right, you do you, have fun. Um,
Mhm.
I've
Yeah.
never felt that it's that kind of society.
This is why I think, like, like there is some weakness in being
Mm-hmm.
anti-Islam. There is
Mm-hmm.
a lot more strength in knowing what your morals are and what you're not going
Mm-hmm.
to compromise on, and to spell that out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. But I think that we, thankfully, as Israelis, I think we really do know where we're going. And also, since October 7th, and probably before that, we really didn't have that much time to engage in that much irrationality, that
Yeah.
much kind of nonsense. Now, we really do have to think a little bit more seriously. But it's interesting because most of the kind of it's a set of beliefs. Okay, I can tell you that I've whenever I see a pink-haired girl in the streets in Tel Aviv protesting the Gius, I know that she's a transgender or a non-binary because it's an entire set of
It's
beliefs. You
funny
know what I
because I
mean?
know like I also know like people with colored hair that are right wing.
I've got colored hair. I've got
Oh,
pink in
see,
my
we found one here.
There you go.
There we go.
Yeah, no, I think, listen, I think as well. What do you think's going to happen if we have another election? Who do you think's gonna? What do you think is going to happen with that?
It's gonna be the same thing.
A
Gonna get the
right-wing bloc?
yeah.
We should build BB a castle. Build it like King BB. Just say,
Bibi is an
okay,
interesting person.
let's forget it. Let's have no more elections. Yeah,
Like
I mean, of course.
he's an interesting person.
You know, I was actually reading a book about Shimon Peres recently, and a lot of people, yeah, a lot of people are very obviously naturally very angry at Rabin. I'm very angry at Rabin, of course,
You know, like the thing that
but
I realized
Shimon
that
Peres was behind it.
yeah, I think Rabin was pushed to the corner. Like
Yep.
looking like in hindsight, when you
Yes.
know you get like you pick up the puzzles,
Hmm.
then I think that Rabin was completely pushed to the corner. I wouldn't be surprised if he went against himself there. Let me say it like that.
I don't think he wanted to do it. I really
I don't
don't.
think
I
he did.
think he knew it was suicide.
I
I
think
think
so
he
too.
knew it was suicide for the people. I don't.
Like this is my intuition tells me that the same thing that you're
Yeah.
saying.
Well, that's exactly it. But in the book about Shimon Peres, you got the impression that Shimon Peres was proud of the fact that he
Yeah, that
pushed
too. That also.
Rabin into this uh, Faustian bargain that we find ourselves in. You know what we should have said in 1993? We should have said, "Go away." Well, we didn't. Why were we even in a position that we were discussing this at all, and inviting Arafat back and doing all of this
Do you
crazy
think it
stuff?
was something that Israel planned?
No, no.
That's why. We're
What?
probably very, very threatened.
Mhm,
Very threatened. Wasn't like, let's be honest, for most of it, existing Israel was not in a position where it could have said no to the United
mhm,
States when the United
mhm,
States wanted something.
mhm. No, we can't. We can't say no. And do you think that that's why people are so angry about Bibi because he can't be controlled?
Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah. I mean, the Americans like hate Bibi for decades already. Like the fight that Biden and Bibi had is decades long, because Biden with his had those stupid ideas that Bibi said no, those ideas are not good ideas, and the fact that he answered,
Yeah.
His Majesty Biden several decades ago wasn't like was enough.
Every single time there's a new president, he comes in with these ideas about fixing the Middle East. And, I just want to tell him, come here, let me educate you, little boy, okay?
I mean,
Let me tell you how we
like
do
what
things.
I've learned, like we've in Israel, we thought for decades, we really thought that it's just that they don't understand that if they're gonna get it in their land, they're gonna react
Mm-hmm.
differently. Like, but what are we seeing is that
Mm-hmm.
they don't. They don't. They actually follow up, which is kind of scarier, to be honest. They're not even hypocrites. Look, like they're literally letting the Muslims do whatever they want to do in their own countries.
Mm-hmm.
Like, friends went to the Bataclan, to a Bataclan event.
France went where?
The shooting in a Bataclan,
Oh,
the
okay.
club.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
UK as well, the Ariana Grande concert, right?
Mm-hmm.
But still, they're letting those people take over their countries.
What do you think about BB in the world
So
kangaroo
the
courts?
scary part is that they actually follow through. They get attacked and they just lay down and let the Muslims take over.
They commit suicide. Yeah.
Yes, yes. Like like this is like for we thought like it's gonna reach them. They're gonna understand, and then they let us fight. No, but instead, what they're doing is that they are giving up.
Mm-hmm.
They're actually giving up. They're actually not being hypocritical, as scary as that is.
Why do you think why do you think they're committing suicide? They just don't care. They just don't believe in anything.
Yeah, it's what I said. Like they think that this is what happened in several generations, right? They thought that since we know math, the next generation is also gonna know math. They took this kind of approach where they thought that morality is something that is natural and biological, and that's
Mm-hmm.
something like that you're kind of born with, right? And it's not like you have to teach it. It's not like they didn't think like they didn't understand it's a skill, just like mathematics is a skill. That like it's something that you have to teach.
It's not born. We're not born instinctively actually knowing the
Yeah, it's not. It's something that we learned. Wait, what is yeah? What does this comment even say? But when
me.
sex and mindlessness cross streams, you get some weird bad stuff. It never turns out well. I don't think well. Yeah, this is why you have to have boundaries, because you don't even know where it's gonna come from. Let's be clear. Straight people can also do everything that non-straight people can do.
So the Ashdale Regiment is asking, how do you think Israel will deal with Hezbollah 2024? I think we're gonna crush them.
Amen.
I think we're gonna take Beirut
Yes.
and the Sinai while we're at it.
Amen.
No, what do you mean? We're going to be completely victorious. Our
That's
our
the only
sol
option we have.
our soldiers have been fighting a war of attrition, right? In
Yeah,
the south,
but
hopefully,
but to be honest, do
getting
you want to live
better.
in a world where we lose? Because I think this world will suck. Like we can run away, right? Hide in somewhere in Antarctica.
Yeah, but if we moved to Antarctica, it would be amazing. Like we
Yeah,
would
and
figure out.
Antarctica would be awesome. It would be like we're gonna have so much fun with the penguins all day. Like it's gonna be
Well, we
like
would
the
figure
most
it out.
advanced society ever.
Yeah,
We're
and people would say,
gonna
well, we figured out how to cure the malaria and get and irrigate
yeah,
the desert. So what is this with Antarctica?
yeah. I
It's
mean, there is
nothing.
water there. That's already
Hmm.
a plus.
Yeah, at least there's water. Oh
Mhm.
yeah, we would figure it out. Yeah, so I listen, to tell you the truth, I think that we're going to crush them.
Yeah.
But I think that the world is going to hate us. But I think that we have to stand alone. Better to be alone than in bad company. And we have to, I
It's not.
think.
It's not even that. It's like
Hmm.
this is what I think I told it AP. People don't understand that Jews are also extremists because we think that there is a world that is not worth living in.
Hmm. In what sense?
And like, if there is no freedom, I might as well be dead. Like,
Yeah, that's our biggest fear. Our biggest fear is becoming the
our biggest
Palestinians.
fear is enslavement. Is not death.
Mhm.
Enslavement is a biggest fear. Like the Jewish biggest fear is slavery.
So, follow up, how do one invest in Israeli arms? Go and invest in Elbits, go and invest in Rafael. I'm sure they're traded on the stock exchange. Go and invest
I
in
actually have
these
a link
companies.
below in my channel for
Hmm.
a website that you can buy IDF merch, and 100%
Hmm.
of the profit. I don't get anything from it, but
Hmm.
100% of the profit go towards the IDF.
To tell you the truth, I would say to people, invest in cyber because our cyber
Mm.
is really, really, really good, and it's very, very cheap to make cyber. When you have to make the Arrow missile system, it's very, very expensive. Whereas, cyber, it doesn't involve any hardware. So I would say invest in that.
Yeah, I
Invest
think
in
there are like
Pegasus.
three super chats that you missed.
Ah, wow, slicha.
Yeah,
Okay, how
it's
does one
Sweden.
invest in Israeli arms? If there's a law, it's not obvious.
Yeah, that's something that I said.
When did you say that?
I don't remember, in one of my videos, where it's like, if somebody had to write it down, it means it wasn't clear.
Again.
Uh,
Yeah.
I think the Rallic tribes also has like this true about limitations and boundaries.
Oh, yeah. The EU went mad. Well, of course they do, because that's all they are. They're just a body that makes fake legislations, and they're an illegitimate body,
It's a
an
mafia.
illegitimate
It's a mafia.
uh,
Those are incompetent people that give each other prizes.
pencil pushers, as they call it.
Mm.
Imagine how doomed Israel would be without compulsory military service. What percentage of the country would be living in La La Land right now? I don't agree at all. I think actually people want to go to the military, and
Yeah, but it
especially now.
helps that it's like
Yeah,
it's
of course,
true,
yeah.
so
It,
has
it it
to be
does help
compulsory.
that it's compulsory. But I think still,
I
even
think it
that
needs to be extended
yeah,
towards
it,
everyone.
it needs to be extended or lowered to 17.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, it's also the military has a very big problem with retention. So if they get very good people, they often don't really want to stay because it's you make more money in the private sector. So that's a big
Yeah.
problem that every military is facing. But you have huge populations in Israel um that actually vote, that actually volunteer to fighting units. Like the Druze, for example, I think it's 97%, and the Datilomi, they're also what's the word? Volunteering in very, very, very high levels. So, how long is compulsory service? For boys, it's 3 years, just under, and girls, it's 2 years.
Yeah. But it's
Hmm.
actually now, it depends on what you do.
Hmm.
So it's
Yeah.
like per job. Like the job,
Hmm.
like a lot of times it's like the job is like also says how long you're gonna serve.
Hmm. Yeah. Like, I mean, if you're going to go to like intelligence or something, then it's
Yeah,
like
it's gonna be
it's
like
8 years.
men and women will be the same, are the same, like
Yeah.
serve the same.
Like and it's also be like 8 years, right?
I mean, for
Hmm.
but that includes like going to university and things like that. Like this is a long term
Hmm. A long-term
maslow.
investment.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it costs a lot of money to train someone like that. It costs
Yeah.
a lot of money. Yeah, but it's also military service is also very good for keeping the people together. It's also a way that different types of Israelis meet each other. It's a
Yeah,
it's
like
a it's
my
a
sister that she served in a police, but it was more like Magav. So
Okay.
she worked in checkpoints.
Hmm.
She had a Bedouin girl with her in her room that
Hmm.
like she would call Israel Palestine. She served as a checkpointer. And she's like, you like, who are, like, if you ask, like, who are you serving for? And like, what do you mean, Palestine?
Yeah, they're serving for
Like,
their
this is
tribe.
like, to her, like, Israel is like,
They serve for their tribe. They serve because that's the
yeah,
norm in their tribe. You have
like, I mean,
The
yeah, I
Bedouin
was like,
trackers, the Bedouin trackers, for
no,
example.
yeah, yeah. No, for me, I was like, does she not know like what the country's name is? Like, is she like, her tribe is so like secluded that she doesn't know where she lives, like, how we call it.
Yeah, Ken, it's
I remember
the
everything.
the Badawi is
The
a
Bedouins.
very different culture,
Yeah,
very
very
different.
like, I was like, my sis my I was asking like, you, like, you understand, like, this is like, this is that is the job that all the human rights people come and like criticize, like they hate so much, because like how,
Mhm.
like, the checkpoints people.
It's all Ethiopian girls in Yerushalayim. It's all
Yeah,
yeah, it's
no,
very, I mean, it's very, you can, it's very heavily, it's very, very heavily populated because so certain people do certain things. You know, the HR in the army is also, I think, everybody, in my opinion, all of the generals have to go. We have to get rid of all of
I
them.
agree with you 100%. Off with their heads. I mean,
Hmm. We have to
not
get rid of them.
actually, but I think like treason is a real thing though. Like, it's like the only, I think treason, you can get a capital punishment for treason in Israel too.
Mm.
It's just that the 50% of
No,
the
do
time
you?
that we applied the capital punishment, we ended up regretting it. So
Hmm.
then
Yeah, I
I was
guess
like,
so. But
oh,
you know,
oops.
even you
So we're
have
like,
people
okay,
like
maybe we shouldn't.
Mordechai Vanunu. He had 20 years in prison
Uh,
for treason, I would say. But it was also a good thing that he did what he did because then people, knew that we didn't have nuclear weapons.
mm,
And they knew about the Shimshon policy, the Samson policy.
yeah.
The Samson policy is if we're going, we're taking all of you
Where
with us.
everybody's going. Yeah,
Everybody's
I know
coming
how
with
long.
us.
Like, once I explained to my mom like how crazy Israel went with their Samson policy.
Mhm.
Like,
Yeah, it's funny actually.
it's
But
way beyond the Dimona thing.
Oh, Ken, go on, tell us about it.
I mean, like a lot of it, like, it's theoretical, right? But like, there is
Hmm.
a reason, like, yeah, Sudan, Ethiopia, like the reason why we are close up to those who are controlling the Nile.
Hmm.
Um, there are, there are ways that if you want to go really crazy, you can go.
Oh yeah, we have a base in Kurdistan, another base in
Mhm.
Azerbaijan. We're also
Mm.
very smart. It's the Ring of Fire.
Yeah, but like, like, unfortunately for us, it's like it's doomsday weapon, right? Like the amount of damage that we're like we're taking the world with that is like,
That's the thing that's really scary is that next time Iran sends ballistic missiles, we'll have no idea what is on those payloads. And now they pretty much know the weaknesses we have in
yeah.
our defense posture.
Hmm.
Why do you think they did that? Because it's such a crazy thing
The
to do.
Iranians
Mm.
think they're desperate.
Yeah, they're desperate to be loved.
I think they had to um, show their like their craziness to the world.
Mm.
It's the thing is like the ones that are crazy have the most power because you don't know what to expect from them. This is why Trump was so impressive because people were like, it was a wild card. So
Hmm.
people are like waiting to see.
Yeah, I mean, that was an interesting I mean, I don't know what's going to happen this time with the American election. That's
I mean, I'll tell you what, Trump, don't get me wrong, like, it's not the easiest person, like, at all.
mhm,
But he it was like the first time that like, even if it took several years, it was like the first time that a person listened,
mhm,
like, tried something, realized it's not working, and tried something else. Maybe because he has some business, like, experiences, like, okay, if something is not working, it's stupid to keep going in that direction, even though initially he wanted to go by the rules, like the continue the policy that was going on, and then he realized that you're like hitting a brick wall. Like, it took him a couple of years, and it was like, maybe that means we should change policy, which is so
mhm.
much more than anyone else, basically. Like, that's
Well, I
amazing.
guess we're
Like,
gonna
even
see.
that, you know,
I guess we're
it's
gonna
like
see, right?
it's like yeah, it's hard to know, yeah, but like, um,
I love
it's
this. I'm
always
sorry. I
say
just have
like,
to say, someone writes, I had Trump derangement syndrome, and now I think he might be the best man for the job, especially right now. I love that term, Trump derangement syndrome. I have a member of my family who I hadn't seen her in 5 years, okay? And during that time I hadn't seen her, she had, left her husband and she was living with her lover, a woman. So lots had changed in her life, and the thing that she could not stop talking about was Trump. And I kept going, I don't want to hear it anymore. I don't care. Like, I don't. She was so like, I gotta tell you about it. I'm so worried. I'm so scared he's Hitler. I'm like, no, no.
like, like, it was such like, you saw the interview, like they asked Trump about
Mm,
Islam, and he
mhm.
was like, there's something there. There's something about in Islam, like there's something weird about Islam that makes people hateful, I feel like. It's like
It's
so
it's called
basic, like a child
Socio-political.
can see that, child can see that. It doesn't take so much brain. You can see, like, you don't need too much. You just look at the hijab thing and you realize that something is like weird, it's like something is
Mhm, mhm.
like, you don't need to be a genius. Somehow all those elites are like so smart that they lost like, they can't even think straight with how sophisticated their thinking is. It's like,
They're
oh,
so
what you see is
sophisticated.
not what you get, like, like sometimes
No.
what you see is what you get. It's like so basic.
So, so listen, Mia, I'm gonna better go now. So I've
Yeah,
really enjoyed speaking. I
really.
know
Me
hopefully
too.
we're going to meet up soon.
Amen.
Um, inshallah, we will do it in Tyre. I'm kidding. No,
You
hopefully we
guys
will
go
meet.
follow.
No, I,
Uh,
I, I only talk about gender, so it's
oh,
probably not going to be
oh,
very
maybe.
interesting to any of you guys. But this is the first time really I'm actually even talking about Israel. I had a guy at the very beginning of the chat was very angry because he didn't realize that I was Jewish or Israeli, and
How
he,
dare you?
it's so funny how anti-Semitic people, they at the same time as thinking that we're scumbags and idiots, they also think that we're geniuses capable of changing the weather, capable of putting hormones in the water to turn the kids gay, all of it. So like we're magical,
I didn't hear
mystical.
that one, that we're turning
Oh
people
yeah,
gay. That's a new one
that's
for me.
the rumor is in
See, there
Egypt
is
that
an advantage of not being an American sometimes.
mhm, they said that yeah, we're putting hormones in the water to make the kids gay. It's actually a good idea. It's a very good idea. We should think about You know, I said something the other day. I said, "I have great ideas all the time for, like, terrorist attacks, and I want to tell people about them so that they can
Yeah,
start
it
to."
was like that. I know during the Intifada, I was like, it's true, but like another sec part of it that people don't talk about, it's not only that you
Mhm.
think like where is the attack is gonna come from, is like you also start thinking, oh, if I were a terrorist, what would I do? You know,
What
it's
would
like
I
it's
do?
another way. It's like you start thinking,
So,
it's like,
I
oh,
was,
here's the weakness. Maybe I could have exploited that.
in 2006, I was on a Monit yacht in, I think Tel Aviv somewhere, and the guy who was sitting, like, beside me, I was looking at him, and I was like, "He's sweating so much, he's sweating terribly, and he's wearing a coat, and why is he sweating?" And he was a rabbi, or whatever, he was a Haredi, and I was saying, "His beard is fake, his beard is stuck on with glue."
Oh my God.
I was freaking out. I was freaking out. So I got up and I mean, I did that a lot. I'm sure you did it as well. You got off buses and because you were scared.
Yeah, the relic
Um,
tribe is really pampering me.
yeah, and that's why I was very, very, very glad to be able to get a gun license. I was extremely pleased that I was able to do that. I feel much more empowered now than I did 3 years ago. I feel very much happier about that.
The Uralic tribes. Thank you for calling out the EU for being, yeah, they are mafia 100%. They
The
preach about
gambit.
human rights, etc., yet they illegally steal resources from their former colonies using child labor, and they sell weapons illegally. Amazing.
I did not know they sold weapons illegally.
I mean, I'm like at this, like, I don't know, you can't be surprised by them at all.
Yeah, you can't. So, Chevre, if you want to follow me,
Yeah.
then it's I'm at Gender
Oh, there is
Rapper.
another, just one more. Sorry.
If anybody wants to send me anti-Semitic hate mail, you just go to the Twitter Gender Mapper, write me all the anti-Semitic hate mail you want. I want to hear it. I want to read it. Please.
The Ashdale Regiment asked if can India replace the US as Big Brother. I don't think India should, like, I don't think we want big brothers. I think more like, you know, somebody you can talk to, but not talk. No, we don't need another person, like another nation that would talk down to us.
Mhm.
Just like equal, like see what goals we would want, like we would be able to reach together. Like I think it would be way more productive.
But we love India.
Yeah,
We
we
love
love
you.
India,
We love you.
but like
Um,
not like
we
I don't
want
think
you
it
to
should
be
be a big
better
brother,
friends. We want you to
just
be
like
better friends.
on equal terms.
Okay? On equal terms, but we need you to be our friends. Don't be fake friends. Don't. Why are you messing around with Iran with bricks? Be our friends. Okay?
I mean,
Okay. Tov, Yana. So, Laila Tov, everybody. Good night. Loved
good
speaking
night.
with you, Rebecca. תמשיכי עם הערוץ שלך והכל.
גם
תודה
את.
רבה. תודה.
כיף. לילה טוב, good night
ביי.
everybody.
לילה טוב. לילה טוב כולם.